everyone. Thanks for joining us. As I was mentioning earlier, for those not familiar with BDPA Atlanta, introduce myself. So I'm the current Atlanta chapter president for BDPA Atlanta, and BDPA Atlanta is a membership organization with a focus on technology. Our main goal is how can we increase exposure to various topics to our community. The BDPA's main motto is from the classroom to the boardroom. So locally, the Atlanta chapter provides STEM programming throughout the year. This is ways for middle school to high school students to get introduced to computer science and STEM principles. And also we provide our monthly meetings that give an opportunity for professionals to also get some exposure and upskill and opportunity to network. As I was mentioning earlier, and I'll drop the links. So our national conference is coming up this summer. It will be July 31st to August 3rd. That will be here in Atlanta, locally again. There is a South Regional Conference that will be in Memphis this year. So that will be happening June 7th through June 8th. I'll drop links to those. So if you're interested in attending those, more opportunities to network, also ways to support BDPA if you're also looking for ways to support BDPA. I think there's one last thing I will say is, not lastly, but definitely want to highlight our sponsors. So definitely highlight State Farm for giving us the platform here at Zoom to host our monthly sessions, and also access to their offices in Dunwoody, which we still use occasionally, and also Motion Recruitment, who's been continuing to help us with bringing content these last few years and for building some more connections. So with that, I'll pass it over to John to introduce our speaker.
Thanks, Shanika. Yep. I guess we're closing in on 4 years of partnering with you just to, help with content and bringing awesome speakers like Jason every month into the meeting. So, and this is not Jason's first time with us. You've been with us a couple of times on different panels, different workshops along the way, really being helpful to the community, which is what we're about, really just trying to give back and provide, expertise and help to people, especially in this type of market that we're in. So it's I've been with Motion. We were Matrix prior. We were acquired about 2 years ago by Motion Recruitment. And so now we're the 15th largest IT staffing company in the country. So at the end of last year, as we were closing in on our topics, we finished up on a leadership series throughout 2023, and it was excellent. And Shanika and Victor Montgomery and I met at the end of the year, and we decided, hey, let's shift our topics to be a little bit more technical, and let's get into data and AI, some app dev things. And so that was what we started off with. And quickly we had feedback from the community that, hey, the market has really shifted. And it's not to say that there's not, some hiring going on and some activity. It's very mixed. And if you were to ask me, I'd say a month ago, what's the market like? And that was our opening line for this session. Like, what is the market? Jason and I were like, how many times have you been asked, what's the market like, guys? What are you seeing? Asked that all the time. And I would have said, hey, I'm beginning to see it turn for the better. And again, this is if you were to ask me a month ago. One of our larger clients, big logo here in Atlanta, reached out and said, hey, we need 3 contract recruiters to join our TA team for some hiring initiative. I'm just like, there we go. Now we're starting. Let's get this thing going. And what I realized was quickly as we began the search, how many people that we found that were available and had just recently become available because they had been laid off So it really was, again, I keep saying this like mixed market. It was just like a mixed message of data coming at me. And it just continues. So I just think we're in this kind of difficult market, a time when people need help. So that's when we shifted. We had one session in January on AI, and then from there we shifted to let's help the community. Let's help with the job search process. Let's help with some workshops. Let's help with education about the market, interview tips, on and on. So that's kind of been our theme here for the last 3-4 months. We'll have one more month of that coming up. Yolanda Hawks, who's a friend, she's been on a panel with Jason before. She's going to be speaking next month on interview tips. Terrific person, been with Siemens, Georgia Pacific, AWS, so super qualified. So anyways, enough of that. I'm talking too much. Let me get Jason going here. This is his show. I first met Jason about 5 years ago when he was in the talent acquisition team at Ream. Was a great partner for us. Super friendly, knowledgeable. Just a great person. And so I latched onto him when we started when we started trying to build out these sessions and have content and speakers. I reached out, and he was happy to help. So Jason's got a great background. I've been talking too much, so I'm going to turn it over to you and let you kind of highlight your background. The Air Force, many different corporate talent acquisition positions along the way. You have your own agency now. You sit on a board. You sit on some really wonderful organizations that have terrific purpose. So I admire that. Thank you for being with us, and look forward to hearing you speak tonight.
John, Shanika, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to say thank you, BDPA for Atlanta, for having me back. I'd like to say thank you to Motion for sponsoring and keeping us in motion. I always come up like with little whimsical things, right? That keeps the heart open, and we can have some heartfelt laughs. So my name is Jason Hayes. True story about me. I'll tell anybody. I started my career and I got my first degree in computer animation. And people say, how did you go from computer animation all the way over to human resources? Well, life was lifing, right? And so but I never stepped away from computer animation design work or technical know-how, because when I was in the military, I was an Air Force reservist for 8 years, and I was a 3 Charlie. Okay, and so to translate that over to civilian world, a 3 Charlie is basically like a desktop support specialist, dealt with hardware, software, imaging machines. It didn't go all the way up to the programming, but I learned programming when I was a kid. Once again, that's a whole different story that I'll probably tell on the next adventure. So yes, correct. I met John at while I was working at Ream Manufacturing, and that's when it was Matrix before it became Motion. I'm glad you're staying consistent, John, with the M's in the first name of the companies. I think that's very fun. So I was at Ring for about 3 years. Pandemic hit, reorgs, and I think we're starting to really level out in what's going on in our industry right now, right? Um, but I think there's some ways that we have to pay attention to how we're going into the industry. So I will let everyone know that I do have the meeting chat up. So the way I like to run meetings is let's just have a conversation. If you go look at my LinkedIn page, you see there's a quote there that says, I'm a human first and a resource second. So let's just have a conversation. Second of all, I like to kind of know who's in the room. So you can come off mute or you can put it in the chat. And I like to kind of know, like, are you in the market looking for a position right now? Are you currently working and want to transition? Just kind of let me know what's going on there, because we're just going to have a conversation and talk. We're going to get to know each other, right? But the next thing I want you to do is I want you to give whatever your situation is, whatever is going on in your life, give yourself a pat on the back, a round of applause. Hey, I'm here and I'm doing it. Okay. All right, Calypso. Looking for from tech coming. Okay, beautiful. Um, so yes, give yourself that room to breathe. Okay. And I'll tell you why, because I have been in transition so many times. I don't have enough fingers. I was talking to my buddy Lloyd Knight over at UPS, and I said, "Hey Lloyd, what's going on?" And we were having a catch up conversation. He said, "Jason, are you switching jobs again?" I'm like, "It's not me. It's them. It's all of them." Right. So the great thing is I know about transition. And so the focus of Hayes development is to focus on people who are transitioning in life, whether you're a veteran going into a civilian position, whether you're a student going into a professional market, or you're trying to transition from one part of your career to the next. So let's talk about that a little bit. The first thing that we need to understand is technology is not going away. And I think that's everybody. I think we have to understand AI is here. It's been here, but it's really here now. So, what we need to understand more of is how does the machine think? How can we get the machine to think for us? How can we get the technology to work in our favor? All right. I'm sorry for those that were recently laid off. Um, and so, the first thing I say is we have to start with the machine. Now, anybody who may work in talent acquisitions knows the process. Things go into this ATS, which is your applicant tracking system. It then sits there. It might, boot you out because maybe they want somebody that lives in the state and they're currently not living in the state. There's so many reasons that it could boot you out, right? So it goes there and it sits. In a traditional ATS, without the AI touch, it was easier to pull your resume. Okay. And then the recruiter could look at it and say, "Oh," and I'm going to say Robert because he's my first one on my screen here. Say, "Oh, Robert looks great. Let's talk to him." Now, with AI, it does a little bit more of a deep dive. Okay. And AI is very structured. The accomplishments it's not looking for. It's not looking for, if you hiked Stone Mountain or if you've been to the Grand Rapids. That's the human part. We're focused on the tech part. Okay. So, what I would like for everybody to do is think about your three top skills, two, three, that you want the world to know about. And then you make that resume based off of those three job positions, if you will, right? So for me, if I were to make three resumes for me, I will look at talent management, talent acquisitions at a senior level, and I will look at possibly a talent business partner. Okay. Those are my top three. Do I have skills outside of that? I absolutely do. But those are the closest to home that makes sense for me that people like John or Shanika could look and say, "Oh, well, we really want to talk to Jason," but also I can put enough meat with the potatoes that it bypasses the ATS because the ATS says, "Oh, well, he meets the requirements for, he has this many years in the field. He lives in this place. He's worked at these companies. He's done this before." Right? And if you go look at job descriptions, when you get to the qualifications, they're very generic now. They're not very specialized. Okay. So you want to make sure that you're matching what they're asking for. Right. So just by, I don't know, chat, has anybody heard of mirroring? Right. Like, and they talk about this in interviewing and stuff like that. Mirroring. Yes, there you go. So when imagine taking that from the human to the machine, we're going to match what AI wants. AI says, "Hey, we want somebody that can I'm trying to think of something. John, why is it always when you know it, but when you think of it, it's like, what's going on? My brain. We want somebody who is flexible on working weekends. So basically you say flexible on working weekends. It matches that. And if it hits at least about an 80 to 85% match, that's a check mark in the AI. Okay. So first, remember, you're going to need 2 to 3 resumes on your best job titles and qualifications. All right. Do I have anybody on the call who is looking to transition I see some people saying, "Hey, I'm looking to get into tech. It's my first job." But I mean, transition from something completely different, like I would say working in finance, coming over to AI. And they're like, "I don't want to touch finance anymore." Do we have anybody on the call who's going through a holistic transition? Coming from technical theater. Oh wow, what's technical theater? I wish just joined that.
I'll say it because it'll be easier. So like building the scenery, hanging lights, making costumes, making sure like the whole show gets built basically. That's what I'm coming from.
Nice. And what are you wanting to go into? I know you want to
Gonna
go into
be a developer probably.
developer. Okay, good. So the question is, how do we take technical theater over to developer, right? So what you have to do is you got to find a common interest between the two, the common threads. One thing is I already hear is technical. That's a great start. So that's brilliant. We're going to start with technical, and then you need to look at other things such as how you manage your projects, how you work with technology, how do you work with people. Those soft skills is going to really help build your resume. Okay. Then you're going to have some powerhouse stuff in there, which is your accomplishments. Now, here's what I want everybody to understand. You have accomplishments and they're there for a reason. Okay. Because you accomplished something and you did something great. You did something good. Right. So take those accomplishments. We're just going to set them to the side for a minute. Okay. As we build out our portfolio, our resume, what we're trying to do in life. Okay. Set those accomplishments to the side because you're going to need those a little bit later and just build that resume. All right. 1 to 3 resumes. Keep it. We're just trying to go after the AI technology. We wanted to say yes. All right. Step 2. Step 2 is going to be a little bit more interesting because you're going to have to work with the human part because they're going to call you. They're going to say, "Hey, let's talk. Let's let's talk about your background." Right. And I'm gonna leave that for Yolanda to talk more about the interview and process. But that's where you're going to bring in those accomplishments. So what are, as I roll over a little bit, what are the hiring trends that's going on out here? Tech, AI. There's a lot of free training out here. Google has free training. Microsoft has free training. Volunteering, building your network. That's one trend. But another one is fintech. Fintech is very interesting. It's a little new, but not. And there are people in every industry talking about it. Every industry. I have not heard the word fintech. Okay. So when you start to see things like fintech and you go, go research it. Go do some more research. Now, companies, your larger companies, your big box companies, one of the things that they generally do is they will lay off people. They lay them off. And if you're laid off, once again, my apologies. But if you were laid off under good conditions and terms and you're rehirable, you can't go back to the company. And I have seen that happen before where people have been laid off and they've been rehired. They just changed the name of the position. Congratulations, Sheena. Thank you. And they have been rehirable. So part of the thing of understanding about what is going on with the hiring trends is you need to know what the new job titles are. Okay. I can't say that I know all of them. And if you've been on my LinkedIn, you've seen that I posted a question the other day and I called out my hiring managers and recruiters. And I said, "Hey, what's more important, the job title or the job duties?" And of course, I kind of knew how that conversation would go. Me, I'm a duties kind of guy. I like the duties, the title. You could be a director, you could be a VP, or you could be entry level. It doesn't matter to me. I just want to know what you're capable of doing when you get hired. So in the hiring trends right now, it's a cross between both. And that's okay. But I always say focus on those duties because that's going to tell you where you're going to be. Also, don't always run after the big companies. One of the things I did when I first got into HR and in recruitment is I took consultant positions and I moved around, whether it was a smaller company, it was a medium-sized company, or it was a bigger company, because that gave me the ability to see how they work and understand what it is that employers are looking for at certain times, what their layoffs could look like, what their hiring could look like, um, how there's different variations in HR. There are some, for instance, and I'll just switch it over to HR for a minute. There are some positions that say we want an HR manager, but that HR manager has to do payroll, benefits, employee relations, compensation, talent acquisitions. They have to do the whole gamut. Then there's other ones that say we want an HR manager and we only want you to do employee relations, or we just want you to do benefits. So if you have the autonomy to look at consulting roles, because when you are able to go into a company and pick up all these little tips and tricks from different places, that makes your resume more robust and gives you more meat to put on there. A lot of people like to say, well, they just want people who are fresh out of school. They want this, they want that. Remember, AI doesn't know what, they only know what you tell it. I was talking to a friend from the census the other day. I said, what do you do with our information? You're asking all these questions about age, race, all this stuff, gender preferability. I said, what do you do with that? And she said, we use it. And I was like, really? And if you know me, at a certain point in time, I'll become a debater for the people. I want to know, what are you using it for, right? But that's a whole different conversation. And I'll probably share her information with John. So maybe that could be a whole nother panel. But understand the information that you put in is going to be important to what is going on in the industry. We have a very dynamic industry because I would say our more youthful generation, they can say, hey, I'll work 7 side hustles, 3 side hustles, 5 side hustles, just to have a peace of mind and not go into an office. We have our more mature generation that says, I'll do whatever you need me to do. And I'll come into the office 7 days a week if you need me to. There has to be a common ground of what's going to work for both sides, right? And this is where it gets tricky, because it's a standoff where you have the younger generation saying, well, you know what, I only need to make this much in order to be successful. And you have the mature generation that says, I want to make this much because I want to get ready for my retirement and all this other stuff. So sometimes companies are pushing the envelope and they're saying, well, this person doesn't really have the skills and the talent that we need, but we know that this person is out there because of the market right now. And the market is much different from COVID, where they couldn't really find anybody for COVID. If you notice, if you go back and you look at the hiring trends and the pricing that they gave out during COVID, I mean, recruiters never seen that much money unless you're like an independent recruiter and you had contract, and then you can make over 6 figures. Now, when COVID hit, recruiters were making an insane amount of money that they've never seen before. And then as COVID kind of died down, because now we're in 2024, the price point for a recruiter is here. But the market still calls for recruiters. Tech is still up here. And it's climbing the more and more they discover new things that's happening in tech. It's growing. And once again, like I said, it's not going away. So I will tell you this: do not get in the industry and get comfortable, because it's changing and it's evolving and it's moving faster than we expected after 2020. There's technology and things I've seen in the Air Force And I was like, y'all are just now getting to this. Now the floodgates are open. So I'm going to pause for a minute, just for a second, because I like to check in with my audience and see if there's any questions. And you can put them in the chat.
Jason, would you talk a little bit about with AI and just like the search engine optimization aspects that you were referring to before? Like if you're trying to mirror your resume to the job description, and you're trying to get as many matches as possible so that the algorithm in these systems, you know, are up the list when you have more matches. So maybe some tips on your resume, like you, because it can be overdone too. Like the technology is in there that if you like, if it's a position for you know, a Fortune 50 company here and they're looking for, let's just pull a, you know, Java developer, and you know, you decide to put Java in like every single line of your resume thinking it's going to like rank high because of the algorithm in the system, like it'll flag that and disqualify it, right? So maybe some best practices on that, like maybe work an example with us,
Okay. Yeah.
what you think is effective.
So one of the things, thank you for the question, John. Then I have a couple in the chat I need to reflect back to. So going back to the resume, first think about what job level you're going in at. If you are going for a leadership position, most leadership positions say they want between 7 to 10 years. I would say that's a good gap. So do not try to make your resume go too far past that. If it says 5 years, but you've done a lot of moving around, you probably want to give them a job that at least you've been at for at least a year and a half to 3 years. All right. So the years do count. They are very important. Um, Another thing is keywords. This has always been an important thing that you have to have in there is keywords. Now, there's two ways to do the keywords. You can blatantly put them on your resume and just say, yeah, here's my characteristics and here are the key things. And then you just line out those keywords, or you could put them within your responsibilities that you have had at the job. Now, I have seen resumes where people will have been at the company for quite a while, and then they will list basically their transition while at the company. So for instance, they might have went in as a data entry specialist, and then they went to desktop support, and then they went to this. And I have to tell them, pick one position. It's great that you were able to transition up and it showed growth. But some companies they might look at that sometimes as being ambitious, and saying, well, this person's going to come in and they're going to want to move up to, here, and we really need them to be able to sit in this seat for at least 2 to 5 years, right? I'm not saying don't be ambitious, but tell them what's relevant that you need them to see, right? So extract a lot of the entry level stuff and all that, and just stick to the position that you were last in. Okay. And just from a marketing standpoint, most recruiters, when they read a resume, you probably only got their attention for 15 to 20 seconds. So if it looks like a lot, unlike AI, which can read your resume like that, uh, it still has to get to a human. And when it gets to the human, the human wants to only see the most relevant information. Okay. Um, the other thing is I wrote down some notes. Like John said, if it's calling for Java, you don't have to say Java, 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 right? And when I did IT recruiting, one of the people that I had to recruit for was engineers, and I would say, hey, do you have experience with AutoCAD? And they say no, and I'll say, well, have you used any CAD software? And they will say, yes. And I will say, okay, well, what software have you used? Well, I use MicroStation. If you know anything about the CAD software, MicroStation and AutoCAD, they're basically twins. They look exactly alike. So therefore, if you can use MicroStation, you can use AutoCAD. And I'll say, well, you can go ahead and add AutoCAD to your resume. So what I would suggest is if the companies are asking for a specific software, go to YouTube University, type it in, look it up, and ask yourself realistically, can I use this realistically? And if you can't, then that's another class or certification. If you can and you realize like AutoCAD, they're the same thing, then you want to list both of those on your resume because that's what boosts your percentage up for being seen. Okay. So I want to make sure that I answered that question. John, did that answer your question? Did that give you the meat and potatoes you needed?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think there's several opportunities in the resume where, again, you're trying to populate with the term, whether it's Java or something else. And so, you're trying to sprinkle that in, to have that in your, if you've got a professional summary section, have it in your title, have it in the first sentence of the description or the first bullet in your position description on the resume, so that it's in multiple places, different places, but the count is there, and you just stand somewhat of a fighting chance to rank near the top then when AI factors in. So.
And here's another great trick. I don't know if you remember this one, John. And I just said this to some students at Morehouse. If you feel like your resume is going to be too long, sometimes you're doing your formatting and that extra page kicks over, but you don't want your resume to go that long. I suggested that's another area where you can fill in a lot of keywords. Let's say your resume is 2 pages and it kicks over a third page for no reason. That's an area where you could fill in a lot of keywords. But here's the trick. Turn all the text on that one particular page to white. So now you've beefed up your resume. The system can still see all of the text, but when they print out the resume, if they print it out or they look at it, it just looks like another blank page. Fun stuff, right? So I see some questions in the chat. Let me jump over here real quick and scroll up. 1 second. Trick the computer, absolutely. I'm going to be transparent. I like to use the terminology. First you got to hack the computer, then you got to hack the human. So, do you have any advice for finding consulting jobs? Yes, go to Motion Recruiting. They are but seriously, yes, go to like a Motion Recruiting. Not only do they have probably full-time opportunities, but they have remote, not remote, but consulting opportunities as well. So I would, reach out to John and his team and say, hey, here's where I'm trying to go in life. Here's what I want to do in my career. And I would, piggyback off their assistance. And the great thing about agencies like Motion is they do exactly what I do, except on a larger scale. They focus in on the human connection and building you for going to that next phase as you go into interview, as you're sharing your resume. They really help put it all together for the companies, where a lot of times the internal recruiters at the big boys, they do a lot of scanning. They don't have a lot of time to connect with you. And so they may bypass a great person. And so I would definitely say work with Motion, talk to your recruiter, build your relationship with your recruiter, because that's another great thing you can do. You can build your relationship. You can say, hey, Josh, I'm going to say, Josh, look what I did. Here's a certificate I got. And guess what? Josh is going to remember you. Okay. And that's a great thing because Josh might have a rec, or what you all know as job opportunities. He might have a job opportunity that just might have hit his desk. And he's like, you know what? I know the perfect person you should speak to. Or Josh might have been talking to Tiffany, and Tiffany might have been talking to Josh and saying, hey, I'm having a hard time filling this position. And then you know what? I just had this person that just got this certificate, and can you speak to them? And that's how the magic happens. That's where networking, works its magic. So I would always say connect to your recruiters, build that relationship there, let them know what's going on, let it be known on LinkedIn what's going on, put it out there. People do see it. I literally had somebody come to me, and we were talking about, their job search and what was going on. And I just responded to her and said, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Do you want to hop on a call? Right? You never know who anybody knows. Okay.
And you're talking about trends tonight too, like old school traditional format would be that you are a W-2 employee of a company, and that's that. And you talked about it before, like, hey, people coming out will have like several different side hustles, if you want to call it that. And like, it's okay. Like, that is okay to have like different makeup of what you're doing. The experience that you gain in all those different environments, it's valuable. It's valuable. So to have a position as, a contract position or a consulting position, it's of equal value as you're in your search. And people, like you were talking about before, Jason, they're looking at what experience do you have, like what aptitude do you have, and within reason, like people will look at, hiring managers will look at that contract engagement, as long as you're not switching every like 3 months, 6 months. I mean, if you've got engagements that are 6 to 12 to 18 months long, that shows like, hey, I knew what I was doing. I was adding value while I was there. They kept me that long. You're going to be okay. So again, that's like, as far as a trend, it's definitely it's okay to have these shorter term, contract type roles. There may be some positions where that could be problematic, like welcome Victor tonight. Like if Victor was adding someone to his team, and maybe in his mind he's adding someone that, hey, I need to see great stability here, and like a longer timeline on something. That could be that, but by and large, like tech positions, I think it's fine to be in a contract type of role.
And it's pretty normal, to be honest with you, these days. Companies don't really frown upon people in tech who have not, if they've literally gone and did a 6 month to a year contract, they don't really frown upon that. And I don't think they ever will, because they understand that, in operations, we might only need this person for this long for this particular project. So yes, that's a very important trend. You can also put on your resume. I even have a resume where I said, where it's short at, I was consulting, I was contracting, right? So you can literally put it in your title to let them know why that time was short without having to go into full detail. And then some people, some of my friends that I know that are in tech who have their own businesses, what they tend to do is they'll list the job responsibilities and role responsibilities that they had up under their LLC, or however they establish their business, a corp or whatever. And then they might also say they do a list of companies like I was at Rain, I was at Bank of America, I was at Motion Recruiting. And so that they can see that as they were consulting or as they were doing what they were doing, that they work for these companies, and that also helps paint the picture a lot better. Okay. Another trend that you need to focus on is to make sure that you're not getting lost in desperation. Okay. Everybody wants to work for some strange reason. I want to work. I like working. Um, so don't just take a job to take a job, right? I have a lot of people that's going entry level in tech, and I feel like Synovus should give BDPA some respect for this and motion. But when I was recruiting over at Synovus in the tech space, Synovus was very open to people who were in transitioning into tech. That's a great company. They said, hey, they're transitioning into tech. Are they able to do this? Are they able to do that? Find those companies that's willing to take a chance on you and focus on them. And there are some sites out where people do talk about this stuff. I don't know specifically what they are, but I remember when I was interviewing somebody who literally came to me directly and they said, hey, I heard you're the tech recruiter for Synovus. And I said, yes. And they said, well, I heard you all don't mind taking a risk on people who are, crossing over into tech from different roles. And I said, yes, absolutely. Let's talk about your skill set and then let's match you to a role. I think that's very important. Um, Other trends is I would say everybody wants the 200K pay scale. I do. I haven't hit it yet. But to be honest, know your worth. I think you all are worth a million, but be realistic. Know your worth. Give yourself a set amount of time that you need to get there. Scale it out. Okay, I hear a lot of people, and I see a lot of people do it. A lot of people will say, I want to go into this type of position at this role. So if I start this company, I'm going to start this company and I'm going to do this position for 1.5 to 2 years. That's it. They say I give it 1.5 to 2 years. They want to see what the company is going to do or say after that. If the company allows them to move up, great. If not, then they start looking elsewhere. Now, that just jumps over, and I see the other questions. I promise you I'm going to get to them. Now, for the hiring managers and recruiters, this could be a win. It's a bet, okay? Because if you need to keep in mind that people right now are out here looking for other positions. So if they're hitting that 1.5 to 2 year mark with your company, you need to think these people can be on the market because TikTok says and other places say you should not be at your job for more than 1.5 to 2 years unless you're getting a substantial raise, you're getting this, you're doing this, you're doing this. Now, it's not always about money. Sometimes it's about responsibility. They just want a challenge. They want to do something different. The money will come, right? So I will suggest to the HR managers and the recruiters to pay attention to how long somebody's been there. Now, the other thing I would suggest is if you're looking for great talent, because we talked about how you should go into AI, the next thing you should do is go look in the rejection bin because the system probably has rejected some great candidates, and you need to go in there and pay attention to that. And that's important as well. So I'm going to flip back over here for a second to some of the questions that we have. Scroll up here. There's some great conversation going on. You want to hear more about fintech from Jason or Sheena? Sheena, that has worked. So Sheena, I will be honest, you've worked in fintech more than I have. I just dabbled in it, and I know this is where finances meet technology and how that's going to bubble out. So I
Correct.
will let Sheena share her expertise.
Well, I will say this, I wasn't really on the technical side with
Mhm.
fintech. My background is more in fraud investigations, compliance, risk
Mhm.
management. So that's the side that I did work on, but I worked at a firm. I'm not sure if we're supposed to be naming companies that we were with, but if you're not familiar with Affirm, it's a buy now, pay later. So everything is basically just on an app or online, or you can go into a store and that option for payment is available. So you can either do short term or long term payments. Um, I'm not sure if there's any more technical detail I can even provide because, like I said, I wasn't in
No,
that.
that's fine. No. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
No. So in the financial tech industry right now, I will say what I will look at is like the State Farms of the world. Because the people who are in insurance, they really are looking towards fintech uh, people who have been in insurance to really reflect more and share more about what's going on in fintech. One of the best people I know that I've listened to is Alexis Vaughn. She's been in insurance for years. But once again, fintech is where finances meet technology. They come together. They have great peer-to-peer platforms, budgeting apps, blockchain technology. It's really a great encompassment of where's my money going, how's my money working, and how can it work for me as an individual or as a business. So I'm not sure if that really answered your question from no. Okay. So yes, computer. Sorry.
Nope, it's fine.
Okay. And so yes, I would suggest following Alexis Vaughn. She can give you the real good lowdown. Um, so you're graduating mechanical engineering, graduate 2024. Okay. So for Sheen, so mechanical engineering, companies that I would, for you, I will focus on. Once again, you can go in. I'm not sure how much of an internship you've done thus far, but I would say focus on companies like a Ream. There is Ream, Train. It depends on where you live too, but they are always looking for mechanical engineers at Honda, Hyundai. I know Honda is here in Georgia. Okay. Um, Go ahead and start putting your resume out there now if you have not already done it before. And if you have participated, I'm guessing you would have participated in an internship. So if you were able to participate in any internships, then what I would also suggest is reach back out to those people that you're in the internship with and find out like where they're at, what they're doing. I will tell you that they always have great career fairs for Purdue, like University, Michigan State, Alabama. They most companies have a round robin. They'll let you know where they're going to be. And look at some other companies that's kind of off brand. Like when I worked for Papa John's, you wouldn't think that Papa John's, a pizza company, would need a mechanical engineer, but they do because they have their warehouses and they actually have one in North Georgia, going 75 north towards Woodstock. So might I suggest you look at those type of companies and congratulations on your master's. All right. I love master's degree. Can you share the roles you're considering? So I'm not sure if I'm understanding it. Oh, they were asking what type of roles are you considering? Okay, I'm catching up here. Okay, thank you. Project management, product engineer. Check EY as well. EY and there was another BASF. Great companies. Research you can recommend specifically for careers in crypto and blockchain. So for crypto and blockchain, you want to go look at probably your big boys. That's your Googles, your Microsofts, because they really have to combat that because they are trying to protect their company at all costs. Banks are good for that as well. So your Wachovias, Wells Fargo, I'm sorry, Wachovia is no longer I really just show my age on that one. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, um, any financial institution,
Truest.
Truist. Uh, I would really check them because any institution that really housed that type of data. And there was Robinhood. Robinhood is a great one. So for if anybody remembers from the movie that came out not too long ago where the guy made all the money off of a GameStop, right? So uh the thing is, I believe it was Robinhood, if I was correct, that he was the platform he was trading on, and then everything went haywire when the stock went, and so now Robinhood has increased their like how they're going into the market dealing with crypto and blockchain as well. Um, could be underrated, but still relevant. Cash App, right? So any company out there that is dealing with moving money heavily, you really want to focus on them for crypto and blockchain. Um, Digital operations manager in higher ed. Congratulations, approaching 30 years in 3 years. Okay. Trying to figure out my next move as I still be youngish. You are absolutely young. I mean, why not? So when you say digital operations, if you can come tell me a little bit more about that and what you were doing so that I can understand a little bit more.
Hi. So I started out actually as a graphic designer for a marketing department at Georgia Tech, in the professional education. But I
Mhm.
also graduated from there, so I'm very technically minded. So pretty much anything new they brought on to deal with software to support the marketing department, became that technical lead.
Mhm.
And so I was pretty much a graphic designer slash web designer by title for about
Mhm.
20-ish years. And
Mhm.
then I started helping, I guess the best way to describe it, I was dealing with vendor relationships for
Mhm.
who were doing the heavy lifting on the technology for like our Drupal website. I can do some front end work, but as far as when you get in the back end of everything, I don't know Drupal like that, but I could figure it out if I had to. But also once we started dealing with Salesforce, I'm helping with some integration stuff on that.
Mhm.
And mostly I'm helping like processes. I am a good quality type of person. Whether I try to find it or not, I find when something is wrong.
Mhm.
And for a long time before you had all of these systems like a Salesforce or like these marketing automation platforms where you could create workflows to do the type of things that you can automate, I was figuring out how to make it work with HTML and some minor things here and there.
Nice.
Just a little bit, I have enough to be dangerous. I call myself a jackalista of the trade. Like I
Yeah.
can do some of anything. Whatever you put in front of me, I can do it. I love technology. I love solving problems. I love data. The design part that was okay, but I'm very technical. So I have to have a reason why I put that there. I don't float in the clouds and just come with stuff out of nowhere. I am very intentional on what I do.
Good.
But yeah.
Uh,
So
I wouldn't say you have enough to be dangerous. I would say you have a lot to
mm.
be dangerous.
Thank you.
You have a lot. You have a lot of great skills there. And so one of the things that I'm hearing is program and project management.
Hmm.
What I've seen out here in the industry thus far is if you go look at a lot of marketing departments within companies, they need somebody like you where the two can cross and like really you have to have somebody with that vendor management and understanding, hey, if I speak to this vendor over here, are they working with us the way we need to be,
Hmm.
collaborating? Or do I know another vendor that I've collaborated with in the past? How is this going to look? As we take this from here to here. So maybe from digital to print, how does that work?
Hmm.
How are we going to work across this platform? There's a lot of skills that you have. If I was to look
Hmm.
at your resume, I would probably say if you were to actually list out everything you could do, I mean, I'm guessing it's going to be well over 5 pages of greatness. And
Hmm.
so what I would focus on is project management. Now, if you're looking at corporations and companies, I would say if you're going to go look at maybe like a Coca-Cola or something like that, go look in their marketing department, right? Because now they've created these positions where there is a mix between tech and whatever the department is. So now, for instance, just using me as an example, they have job positions called talent management, right? So that's project management for talent. That's
Okay.
what I'm good at, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you will be probably known as a marketing manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
There might be something else. And that's why I say sometimes you got to read a little bit of the role and don't worry about the position title. So it's going to take a little bit of reading, but you have a lot. And to transition, I think you're going to do great because
Mm-hmm.
I've heard you have a lot to carry over.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No worries. And
I would say coming from Georgia Tech that anything process related,
Yeah.
and Coke is a great place. Jason's spot on with that, just because just the proximity, going there, it's right there. You look up and you see the Coke Tower, and there's a lot of Georgia Tech people there, and
Okay.
I think that's worth some attention on your behalf there, just to see what they have available. I think they do, lean in a friendly way with GT grads. So,
Okay.
and there's
Good to know.
plenty in those that big operation there. There's just a lot of process work that's done across a lot of different platforms and departments. So, yeah, good
Awesome.
suggestion, Jason.
yeah.
Thank you so very much.
And so one thing I also want you all to be conscious of when you're looking for your positions out here, one hiring trend that I'm also seeing is it might say virtual or remote, but it might have like the company is based in Michigan. So because there's a higher level of conversation around how people put information into systems, um, it's basically saying unless they really say we want somebody remote or virtual, you'll see it listed twice. If it says Michigan remote, they ideally want somebody in the Michigan area, but it's close enough to come to the office. And that's because employers are wanting people to come back into the office. Some employers are saying we want people to come in hybrid, 3 days a week, 2 days at home. Other employers are saying we're looking for people to come back 5 days a week. So this is something else you're going to see continuously trending. But 9 times out of 10, if you really want a remote position, you might see some in Atlanta. California is notorious for it. Colorado is pretty close, and then a little bit of Texas, and then Canada. Those are your top areas where you're going to find like remote, virtual positions. I'm sorry, John, you're going to say something.
I was just going to say, like, we have a pretty good client up in Pennsylvania that their trend has been to shift exactly what you're saying. They've shifted back to we'd like our people to come in 1 day a week. Doesn't sound bad, right? I mean, that's pretty good. But then in doing that, it's just like, okay, well, suddenly I've got to live. If it's 1 day a week, I've got to be in the local area, right? So, but my point on all this is depending on the search, that can change. So you can, if you're in a search and you see something and you're a great match for it, and sometimes it's worth throwing the resume into the mix, even though you don't want to move there, but you want to be 100% remote. If they're struggling to find the right person for 2, 3, 4 weeks, suddenly their requirements change, and suddenly the TA team reaches back out to us and they're just like, hey, we're open to 100% remote now. We got to get this filled, and who do you have that's a good fit? So sometimes you just a little bit of faith in some of these situations, and it comes back to, are you a good match? Does your experience match well with what they're looking for?
Right. And so one thing I want you all to also do is to create a template, okay? Just off of what John said, a person can come back to you and say, hey, this is fully remote. Are you open to having a conversation? I know we're seeing a lot of rejection emails, and that's okay. They're not rejecting you. You're not rejected. You're accepted. Okay. I want you all to remember that. But one thing I like to do is tell people, and I've suggested this: set up a rule in your Outlook or Gmail or something that when it has that certain verbiage, which is a template from the companies, when it has that, just send it into a folder. We don't need to see that negativity throughout the day. Okay. But what we do want to do is, if it does come from somebody that, hey, Jason, we spoke the other day. It was a great conversation, but we're looking for somebody here. Okay, go ahead and create your template for the human rejection, right? Hey, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I enjoyed our conversation. I will, please keep me in consideration for if the opportunity is to change, or it's that little human touch that goes a long way, but you can use AI to do it. Set that up as a template. That way, if you're out and about on vacation at your in Florida or something, and they send it to you, it's already a template in your phone. Insert, replace, thank you, have a great day. You feel good, they feel good, everybody feels good. We're going to use AI to get us where we want to be. Stay with me on this, okay? Create your template for your thank you letters, okay? Make sure that you bullet out the important stuff. Never go past 4 to 5 bullets. I have a template. I've sent this to everybody that has trained up under me who's trying to get into their next position. And I guarantee you, they are like, oh, wow, this is great. It's short, sweet, to the point, and it reflects on the conversation that they already had. Once you do that, it's saved. Recruiters love it. Managers love it. Everybody loves it. You're memorable. Okay. Which leads over to another trend. Where are we searching? Where are they searching? Where are you searching? How are we going to, get this masterpiece going? After you talk to the motion team and you say, hey, here's what I got, what can you do for me? And they say, well, we're going to work on it. And they are. Great team over there. What else are you doing? We talked about the networking portion. And I know we're in tech. We love our technology, but you can't always network through a keyboard. BDPA, they're gonna have those meetups, right? I sit on a board for Inspired EDU, and what we do in the community is some great stuff. We're always looking for volunteers. We take old tech, bring it in, refurbish it, clean it up. We put it back into lower income communities. And I've recruited about 5 volunteers to come work with Inspired You, because I like to say we're inspired by you. And one of my buddies said, and he works in tech, he said, Jason, why would I do that? And I said, did you ever go on the website and look at who sits on our board? And because we're an active board, you're going to meet most of those people in person: CTOs, CIOs, CFOs, even a CEO from Hayes Development. But I say that to say, make sure you show up in person. There's a bad stigmatism out there, and I love that it's being broke, is that tech people don't like to talk. They don't like to come out. They don't like to come from behind the keyboard. We proved that's a lie. And if you think we haven't done it, go check out the Kelly Clarkson interview that we just had. And so when you talk about networking, when you're talking about getting to work, I brought over 5 people in different career fields, and they're almost close to that next opportunity. One of them with NCR. I was just talking to them today. And then they like the work that they do. When you're volunteering, you are working, so that does go on your resume, just FYI. So where are you looking? LinkedIn is a great place, but don't live on LinkedIn. I will say go look at Google. Google is great. Their optimization and the way that they search for jobs and The real-time turnaround is absolutely brilliant. Go directly to companies' websites if you're feeling rambunctious. But don't downplay the Indeeds. People still, especially if you're looking to so I like to rank, and I don't know if John and the team look at it this way too, but I like to rank the job boards based on certain things, certain criteria. So if I'm looking for an entry-level person, I go look on Indeed, believe it or not. I don't look on LinkedIn. And there's nothing wrong if an entry-level person wants to go, or a recruiter wants to go look for entry level there. I just know Indeed is just something that is, I always find my best talent there. My hard to find talent for entry levels, hiring managers and recruiters that are on here. I'm giving you my tips and tricks for free. All right. Go look on Indeed. They're there. And if you're looking for your entry level position, go look on Indeed. It's there. Don't be scared to break the bracket a little bit. I had a buddy, he went from one place to now he works at Ulta Beauty. And I was like, Ulta Beauty needs your services? Yes, they did. So don't think of always the tech giants. Think of other companies, because IT is everywhere, even at Ulta Beauty, which they should, make sure they sponsor a check to BDPA. Sorry for me mentioning that. You're welcome. Um, so I'm going to pause right there and I'm going to check the chats. Victor. And is there any other questions that somebody might have about what they're seeing in hiring trends, where it might be coming from? Please feel free as I look through these real quickly. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. All right. No, so we'll keep going. All right. Now, another thing that I see trend-wise is don't be scared to go to the hiring manager directly. Remember when I told you to not to forget to create those templates? You can create a template for a hiring manager. And it doesn't actually have to be specifically around a job. What I would probably do is focus it more as more of a get to know, a 15 to 30 minute get to know, and that can become your interview real fast. Hiring managers are going to respond. If you're out here looking on LinkedIn, hiring managers are posting not only for themselves, but other managers, hey, I'm looking for this type of person in my department. So don't just try to message them, connect with them. First connect, don't follow, connect, and send them a message, your AI generated message for success, because we got to keep it tech, which keeps it right. All right. And so you use this message and you say, hey, John, I see you're looking for a software developer in your organization. Can I just have 15 to 20 minutes of your time to understand what you're looking for? And no, by the way, I'm not an outside recruiter trying to get a job. Right? And that manager is going to take a look at your profile. If they're looking at your profile, you're doing good. If your profile is private, you are completely not doing good right now. Open up those profiles. Let people see who you are. Let them get to know you. Okay? If you have any secrets, keep it offline. But once the manager gets to know you and they get to understand what your highlights are, once again, LinkedIn is a powerful tool. You can put those keywords in there, right? You could put, I would say just give them enough to just sprinkle like, hey, like 3 bullet points. Here's what I did at this position. Here's what I did at this position. Here's what, because they're not gonna read it like your whole resume. They're just gonna spot check it, right? So give those 3 bullet points of success. And those 3 bullet points could even just be your accomplishments. Remember how I told you, put those accomplishments to the side? Put those accomplishments there. And also, if you're in the community, if you're doing volunteering, the great thing about LinkedIn now is they allow you to put pictures. So they get to see you in action. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. So you're going to see that. I've done it. I have probably more pictures than I do words, but I like to see people know that, hey, yes, I did work for this company. And while I was here, I was very involved. I did this. So if you have projects, put those projects there. Take a pic. As long as you're not going against any NDAs, put those projects in there, right? Because there's a reason that those accessibility options were turned on within the software. They want you to share the story. John, you were going to say something, and then I'm looking in the comment.
I was just looking at the question in the chat now. I was going to say, related to LinkedIn, to use it. Not to answer the question in the chat, but before that, to if you are looking and you're not worried about your current employer knowing, I would use the green ribbon around your name to show that you're open to work, because that is a good. It's just easier for recruiters and other hiring managers just to quickly see, hey, this is someone that is open to work, looking for an opportunity. So use that feature. It's a good feature. But yeah, what do you think about this question in the chat?
So what I suggest is, if you want to be open to work, and this is in the settings, if you want to be open to work without letting your current employer know, just don't add the green circle. You can go into settings and say open to work, but just don't put up the green circle. And realistically, remember that 1.5 to 2 years, right? Never turn it off. Just leave it. It's just there. Because when in 1.5 to 2 years, when John thinks and he's like, what's Jason doing? Or Victor's like, what's Jason doing? Where's he at? And then you click and you see I'm over at Hayes Development, and Victor's like, Jason, what are you up to, man? Are you open to work? Well, technically he doesn't have to call me. He could just see it on my LinkedIn. I'm open to work, which means I'm open to have a conversation. Conversations are not the end of all be all. They're just a conversation. Say, hey, well, what's going on? Are you willing to leave Hayes Development? I mean, that CEO guy, he's crazy to me, But no, it's always just a conversation. And that's one thing I want you all to remember. It's just a conversation until the offer letter's on the table. Okay.
Yeah. Jason, I think that's great advice. And I've been listening in. I'm a bit under the weather today. So I was in the room originally, sitting in the bed just listening, but I'm like, let me hop in on some of this. And you said a lot of great things that I'm hopeful that either those that are joining us now or will watch later can get their notebook out and take notes on. That question was a really good question. Because I know a lot of people are timid in regards to sharing their intent with the world when they're unsure about what that future may be. But what I will say, even from that connectivity that Jason mentioned and sending out those notes with a few bullet points that highlight your experience, a lot of that is your branding, right? And if your branding is strong, even if you're considered a passive candidate because you're not outrightly showing people that you're open to work, folks will reach out to you because they're like, hey, that brand is good, that brand is strong, I want to be associated with that brand. Let me contact the person to see if they're at least open to a conversation. And like all good people, I'm not turning down a good conversation, right?
Right.
So I want to be sure that your profile is of such that it's intriguing to those that are passing by it. And of course, to Jason's point, you don't have to put the green bubble on, but if you open your profile to work, then when those search engines via LinkedIn or any other, if you X-ray search via Google on LinkedIn, there's lots of tricks. But when you do those things, you'll pop up a little bit earlier because they know you're not passive, you're an active looker. And so you may rise a little bit in the ranks of the searches that come back. But really great question. I would say don't be afraid. The reality is business, personal is personal. And when it comes to you being your business, you have to always look out for what's right for you, your family, your community, etc. but make sure your branding is on point. I had an individual that a company reached out to, and I'm telling you, it's funny how things work. Their branding was so strong that HR recruiter that reached out to them then turned to ask them would they be a mentor to them because they're just that strong. They're like, hey, can you mentor me? And the HR recruiter was trying to recruit the person, but it was just amazing. And if you have that in your pocket, if you develop that, very similar things will happen for you. Great question.
Thank you, Victor. And so I see we have another question. Been applying to positions remote because you're moving. Okay, so here's what I want everybody to understand about hiring trends. It depends on where the economy is and where you already live. Okay, so if you live in a very fast-paced environment like a New York City, you could probably apply for a job tomorrow and maybe get a phone call, I don't know, within 2 weeks. And then if everything goes well, you could probably be hired by the end of the month, right? That's because New York is very fast, right? Georgia's a very moderate state. And then California is in their own lane. Okay. That's just been known for years. They're great, but they're in their own lane. So you don't know how that's going to balance out. So first, you need to understand how long it would take for a person to find a job in Wisconsin. Okay. And then you're going to have to, look in two ways. One, I would suggest not necessarily putting an address within your resume or to your profile. You could literally say, the capital and the state, right? So if you put the capital and the state in your resume and in your profile, now your information is more drawn over this way versus being in Atlanta. All right, because you're going there. So you're going to have an address there. And if you're moving there, I'm pretty sure you have support there. So I would suggest go ahead and switching that information over. Don't put in a physical address or any of that stuff. Just put a city and a state. That's it. Now, I'll give another example. My dad lives in Conyers and he works in tech. And when he was looking for another position at some point in time, he would put his address and then, Conyers, Georgia, right? Well, let me ask you, if you go into LinkedIn, do you think that you'll see Conyers, Georgia pop up at all? No, I didn't think so. It doesn't, right? Because once again, we're trying to hack the system before we hack the person, right? We need to get that on a t-shirt. I'm gonna put that in Victor's hand. He's like a good neighbor. So we're gonna hack the system, all right? So I told him, take out Conyers, Georgia, put Atlanta, Georgia. Because when you go into the system, you see Atlanta, Georgia, and if it's LinkedIn and they really want to get tricky, because they're diabolical with this, they have Atlanta, Georgia, and Greater Atlanta, Georgia. Metro. Check all three of those Atlanta, Georgia boxes. Okay. So if you are gonna go ahead, John.
Oh, I was just going to say on Sheena's request, if she hadn't already thought about this, because you were in fintech, right?
Yes.
Yep. So you're moving back to Wisconsin.
Temporarily.
Just temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. All right. I kind of misread that. I was thinking Fiserv could be a good target for you because they're in the Milwaukee area, as well as here in Alpharetta, and one of the leading fintech companies. So that could be a target for you. Are you going to move there temporarily and then move back to Atlanta? Is that the plan?
Possibly, yes. I actually was contracted to Fiserv for a while.
Oh, gotcha. All right. So you're already there. Okay.
And so once again, thank you for asking that, John. Once again, as long as you left on good terms, you can reapply to Fiserv and say, hey, I'm going to be out in this area. Do you have, my needs over in this area? Right. And don't just because you're not at a company no more doesn't mean you can't reach out and have that conversation. Um, Another thing is if you really want to get tricky in hiring trends to find out the best way to find out what companies, find out where their home headquarters is. I promise you, not every company has moved to Atlanta just yet. Um, but they're coming. So find out where their home headquarters is. You could, and once again, we're going to use AI first, okay? Ask AI, Chat GPT, 4, 3, whatever version they're on now. It's 4, I believe. But ask Chat GPT, what are the best companies to work for in Wisconsin for fintech or whatever you want to transition into? And it's gonna, it's probably gonna queue for a minute, but then it's gonna spit out a couple of good companies. Really, all you need to get your job search going is 5 good companies. 3, if you can narrow it down to specifically what you want to do. And I say that because if you look at those 5 companies or 3 companies, you get to look through their job descriptions and look at what type of people they're looking for from a job description process. And then once again, create that resume, right? It all comes full circle. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, no worries.
And just to throw it out there, if Molson Coors is of interest, if you happen to go out there and see some things, definitely connect with Shanika. We have relationship with Molson Coors via our Milwaukee BDPA Milwaukee chapter. And so we would love to make connectivity if it makes sense if you see something out there.
Oh, definitely. I'm definitely interested in that.
So Victor's talking about something that I didn't I kind of touched on it, but I didn't touch on it. So thank you, Victor.
Yep.
So once again, if you're connected to an organization, find out where else they're at. Find out what else they're doing. Once again, that networking. Connect with Shanika, connect with Victor. Hey, I'm moving. Do you know of any resources? And just like that, Victor just threw it out there. Hey, we have this that's there or close to, um, and maybe they can help you. It's nothing wrong with having a good landing pad when you reach a new location. Yep, conferences, they're very great. Um, happy hours and career fairs, yes. And actually, I just got a tag from Tag saying talking about a new happy hour that they have coming up. So once again, I say this that the environment that we're in is big, but it's super small. A lot of people know a lot of people. Use that network to say, hey, who do you know out where out here? And then 9 times out of 10, if somebody like a Victor or a John or Shanika is willing to pick up the phone on your behalf, that means they trust your judgment, they know you, and they're going to push you forward. All right. Is there anything else that anybody feels like they're seeing that they're trying to overcome a hurdle that, hey, I really want to do this, but this is the roadblock that I'm hitting? Uh, please share.
And if you don't, if you think of something later, you can reach out to any of us. We'll always be happy to help. So, um, Jason, thank you so much.
Mhm.
I don't know if you have any closing thoughts, or Shanika, Victor, anything as we start to wrap up that you'd like to reemphasize. So many good things you highlighted.
Okay. Um, no, you're welcome. Always happy to help. Once again, I see Calypso, Junior Rose, anywhere. So, Calypso, if you want to connect with me offline, I'll be happy to set up a 30-minute conversation and we can have a deeper conversation about your search and what's going on. And I will definitely try to help because sometimes it's not, where we look is how we look, right? So my closing remarks is once again, everybody, I want you to understand it's not you. It's the climate. There are things that are changing. They're evolving as they should. And the great part is you're changing and you're evolving with it. So give yourself a pat on the back. Give yourself a round of applause. Okay. This is not a me effort, it's a we effort. And I want you to remember, approach the human first as me. Then I'm going to teach you how to hack the system and hack the human. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you
Jason.
again, Jason. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna drop some scratch notes from just like the conversation, like even with Jason opening up, think VIP United Way, like that course you were mentioning earlier. Yeah, thanks for everything that you shared. It's always good to reflect on these topics. Like whether I know we've had some series in the past that dedicated to like interview help and like searching for roles and how to kind of boost your resume and things like that. But it's good to always reflect on it every so often. So thank you again, Jason. Thanks everyone for your attention and all your questions and participation this evening. I guess I'll say, John, Victor, any last notes?
I'll say feel better, Victor. Thanks
Yeah,
for
feel
coming
better,
on.
Victor.
Hey, great information as always, Jason. I really appreciated you sharing your expertise with the group.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Take care.
much.